We welcome our Nigerian viewers and viewers around the world. This is Business Week, where we zero in on the biggest news story in the world of business. We also engage in smart and global business conversations. I am Kelly Egiga, and I am reaching you from Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital. Well, thank you for joining us. In Nigeria, wheat is the third most consumed grain, and by the end of Q3 2021, the data from the National Bureau of Statistics (NBS) showed that the country imported durum wheat and mackerel worth 88.46 billion naira and 30.69 billion naira respectively from Russia. And our focus today is on the skyrocketing prices of bread, which is gotten from wheat, a staple food that constitutes a major part of the daily diet of many Nigerians, which has catered to more functional demand. This conversation will take center stage in just a moment as we highlight some of the key issues and factors fueling the cost of bread prices across the country. But let's run you through some of the stories that trended earlier in the week.
Upon its assumption into office, the 9th National Assembly assured Nigerians the annual budget, which either was being passed between March and May, will be returned to January. The Parliament has over the years achieved these, even in the face of all odds. A brief closed-door meeting and the lawmakers returned to the business of the day. Wednesday's order paper was with a supplementary list where 5 bills were summarily considered and passed. One of them was the President's request for an 819.53 billion naira supplementary budget to the 2022 Appropriation Act. In the breakdown, the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing got the largest chunk of 704.78 billion naira. It was followed by the Federal Ministry of Agriculture with 69.24 billion naira. FCT has 30 billion naira, and the Federal Ministry of Water Resources 15.5 billion naira. Also approved was the 2023 Finance Bill. The lawmakers equally approved the 2023 budget of the Federal Inland Revenue Service to the tune of 262.95 billion naira at its Committee of Supply. The bill seeking an extension of the capital components of the 2022 budget to March 31st, 2023 was also approved as requested by Mr. President. The 2023 Appropriation Bill equally received the support of the lawmakers.
The committee hereby recommend to the House to approve the bill for an act to authorize the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation for the sum of 21,827,188,747,391 naira only.
Of the approved sum, 967.48 billion naira is for statutory transfers, 6.55 trillion naira for debt service, 8.32 trillion naira as recurrent non-debt expenditure, and 5.97 trillion naira as contribution to development fund for capital expenditure.
Plus 1, plus 2, plus 3.
For the 4th time in a row, the 9th House of Representatives has kept to its promise of returning the nation's annual budget cycle to between January and December. Its expectation is that the fiscal document will be properly implemented to benefit the average citizens. Joke Adsa, TVC News, Abuja.
Established in 1997 by a ministerial order, the Nigerian Natural Medicine Development Agency has remained committed to its mandate of promoting and facilitating the knowledge of indigenous medicine practices in the country.
Thank you for finding time to honor us with your presence.
At this media roundtable put together by the NNMDA to sensitize Nigerians on the importance of natural medicine, the agency Director General and Chief Executive, while unveiling new products produced by the organization, stressed the need for the exploitation of all the benefits and consumption of natural medicinal products.
Drug development takes time. Drug development takes money. It takes good initiative and innovation. So I want to encourage us that there's nothing to fear. But for those who are taking the pains to go into drug development and have gotten NAFDAC listing for their products, it gives you an element of safety and some element of effectiveness. So we should be patient. We cannot continue to depend on other people to come and develop our country. The ones you are buying from China, you are buying from India, some group of people took the initiative and produced them. And I can assure you, sometimes some of those products are not better than our own.
He, however, noted that the Nigerian natural product business, with a market value of over $120 billion, will continue to serve as an invaluable economic opportunities for revenue generation for government.
If we produce our herbs, herbal medicines locally, you reduce the importation of similar products from outside. So you save foreign exchange for the country. So it's an economic contributor to the general grain of the GDP of the country. I want to also call on government to make importation of equipment a bit easier, because that is equipment and packaging are the greatest challenge for producers of our medicinal plants. Our herbal medicines or natural products in this country.
To ascertain the level of quality natural products manufactured by the agency, journalists were taken on an inspection tour around the organization's world-class laboratory facilities in Lagos. Blessed Omonose, TVC News, Lagos.
You're welcome back. Thanks for staying with us here on Business Week. Let's head on now to our big conversation, shall we? As inflation continues to hit the rooftop with its multiplier effect on prices of foodstuffs, basic commodities and rent, Nigerians are groaning and have continued to buckle under its excruciating weight for many months now. Nigeria, the most populous country in Africa with abundant natural resources, is the continent's largest economy by gross domestic product. And agriculture in Nigeria is so important to the economy and Nigerians. However, the country is a net importer of food and major agricultural products such as bread, semolina, pasta, and other wheat flour-based products. And some of these products are staples of the country, and the demand for the product has continued to increase. And for lovers of bread, the prices are soaring, thereby causing many consumers to abandon bread for a cheaper alternative. I wonder just how much you're buying a loaf of bread in your area. But who better to speak to about some of these issues than Engineer Ben Akak, the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Bengi's Group of Companies, which has more than 3 bakeries in Calabar, the Cross River State capital. While Engineer Akak also believes that there are key ingredients in the value chain of bread that have contributed in jacking up the cost of production. He also spoke on the state of Nigeria's economy and the economic blueprint and policies of the APC's presidential candidate. Here's that conversation. Mr. Chairman and CEO, Bengi's Group of Companies, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, so let's begin with the fact that we all know that bread is in demand in the country and, of course, all around the world. And virtually every household, for instance, we know how essential that commodity is. But with all of what is playing out at the moment, is that still the case?
Well, I'll say yes and no. In the case, for instance, bread as staple food all over Africa, in sub-Saharan Africa, is something, it's a food that has been there from the beginning. It's one of the food that one could say that historically started with creation. So, because of that, the demand will always be there, because it's been there from the beginning. But looking at the economic situation, the prevailing inflationary issues in the country, the demand has really gone down compared to what should be before, and knowing too well that it should be available in every household. So That's it. So yes, the demand is a little bit high. No. The no part is the fact that because of the inflation in the country, the demand has really gone down. So.
Yes, and when we also look at the inflationary pressures as we are seeing now,
Yeah.
it's not just a Nigerian thing. It's something that
Global.
is global. I mean, it's hit economies around the world.
Yes.
But let's discuss how that has impacted the market here in Nigeria. The fact that we only are trying to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic, and then we also have a war going on in Ukraine, Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Has that impacted the market?
It's so much, huge in terms of, and then you should add something again, aggressive monetary policy. It's, all these factors coming together put so much pressure, not just on the economy, but on the standard of living in the country. And you can say that also approaching the elections is quite a difficult task, considering the fact that Nigeria is just trying to, the last World Bank report, which stated Nigerian economy is a little bit down. The growth rate is down from 3.3 to 3.2. But again, we seem to have some sense of hope looking at it, because comparing it to South Africa, the growth rate is from 2.8 to 1.8. So really, it paints a difficult future, but at the same time give us some hope, comparing it to other African countries.
Well, you are a businessman. You have been in this for quite some time now. As a businessman, as an entrepreneur here in Nigeria, paint a picture of how easy is it to do business here. Talk to us from that window about the ease of doing business. Talk to us about some of the challenges perhaps that you have faced or encountered over the years as a businessman, as someone who owned bakeries, not one, not two, not three.
Yeah. Well, I think it is, one will say, the Nigerian business environment has always been challenging and demanding. But the resilience, the strength of the Nigerian people has always been what we hamper on and what we critically rely on. I mean, having to run not just bakeries but other manufacturing businesses all over Nigeria. One of the major challenges we have is, of course, I talked about the aggressive monetary policy program regime that is ongoing, the inflationary rate that is ongoing, and then you also talk about lack of having the requisite manpower, the labor force to actually, run these businesses, and also high interest rates. I mean, these are all the factors that have been hampering the growth of small and medium-scale enterprises. But beyond that, I mean, look at the exchange rate of Ghana. It cannot be compared to Nigeria. So we still have, I keep painting this, I mean, Nigeria has a population of 200 million people, and we'll stay counting. So our GDP is also not too bad. So you put all this together, you discover that as a person, we don't rely so much on the weaknesses, on the issues around, but we depend on what we can do to not just bring our businesses back, but looking at alternative means of making business easier for us, whether in manufacturing or in construction or in agriculture, in all fields. So that's what we do look out for in all endeavors that we are involved.
But I'm just curious to also ask Your Excellency, now that there's a serious hike, there's a serious inflation here in Nigeria and of course around the world as well, has that also affected the quality of what you produce,
yes.
For instance? And then you can also give us an example of, because right now in Lagos, for instance, we're buying a loaf of bread at 1,000 naira, 1,200 naira, 1,500 naira. So has that also impacted just how much a loaf of bread goes for.
Yes, you know, having an import-dependent economy is one of the challenges we are facing and will continue to face unless and until we begin to produce and make those things available. I mean, from the Baltic region alone, Nigeria spends $491 million every year on just importation of wheat. And the simple story there behind all this is that Nigeria does not have the climatic weather to actually cultivate wheat around. But I know that there is an ongoing research that is going on around the Obudu Ranch resort about the climate, on how to begin to cultivate those crops here. But then, just opposing that with production of a stable food like bread. Yeah, I mean, the price of wheat last year, I mean, being the major ingredient in the manufacturing of flour, the price of wheat last year was between the range of 3,800, but as we speak, it's almost 6,000 naira, so triple the amount. So it's still going to affect not just on bread alone, but in all commodities, because in addition to that, we actually all over the world had not recovered from the global pandemic, the global COVID-19 pandemic, and then you're having the war in Ukraine. So it snowballs all together to all these sectors, and I tell you that maybe we're going to see more openings. We're going to have more hope after the elections. Of course, the demand on the elections too is telling seriously on the economy.
Yeah. I would delve into the elections for a moment.
Yeah.
But let's stay with this issue of grains. I mean, we know how crucial Ukraine is to the world, and that's because of the capacity of the country's production of grains, which has impacted even us here in Nigeria and, of course, the continent as well. But what are the lessons for Nigeria and the continent as regards this issue of grains? I mean, are we saying that we do not have the weather at all? We do not have the soil for the production of grains in this part of the world, in the continent?
Well, I think I will say how much metric tons of grains do we import from those regions will also tell you what we need to do. I mean, Nigeria imports a total of 6 million metric tons of grains every year from, again, the Baltic region. My point here, my emphasis is we need to be more innovative. We need to look deeply. We need to be more scientific. And I think we need within, whether at the tertiary or the primary, at the secondary level, begin to put together a syllabus or put together a curriculum that encourages scientific innovation in terms of agriculture, because food is the only thing that is constant in a man's life. Every other thing has variables, but food is a constant factor. We need to, not just in Nigeria, the whole of Africa, our lands are fertile, but just that ingenuity, that innovation, that creativity, that just touch to put us in that prime position is what we are lacking. And I think leadership will engineer that. And until we have the credible leadership structure that will enhance such opportunities, we're still going to be lacking behind.
Let me ask you and take you back again to issues around bread production in the country. So when you take a look at 2023, for instance, I wonder what your economic outlook would be. Do you think the cost of bread is going to surge even more? Do you see Nigerians paying up to 2,000 naira for a loaf of bread? Or do you think things are perhaps going to get better?
Well, I think we'll stay on this for a while. We'll stay on this for a while. But I think towards the middle part of 2023, we're going to have a little bit ease in terms of most of these policies must have been either rooted properly, and then new leaderships will emerge, and those leadership will give hope to the people and re-engineer another new dimension of the population looking at how governance should be. It will also bring in new thinking and new investment and will restore more confidence. I mean, most especially when it's the kind of leadership that people expect. Of course, you know how serious the international community hopes on the Nigerian election. So in 2023 and going forward, we're going to have slow growth. The growth is not going to be as we should expect. But I think towards the end of 2023, we're going to have more openings and more opportunities.
And can I just ask you, Excellency, if perhaps now that we're experiencing fuel crisis across many parts of the country, long queues have emerged and are emerging. It looks like it's getting better, but we don't know. This is December, we don't know how things are going to play out in the coming days and coming weeks, perhaps. Does that in any way, will that in any way affect the cost of production of bread? That also will be, influence the cost of a loaf of bread?
Yes, it will. It's already. I mean, as of last year, for instance, a liter of diesel goes for between 350 to 400 naira, but today it's triple that amount or double that amount. So, and it's not really abating, it's not reducing. So we still seeing it going high. It's really going to, and then it brings back to the point I keep talking about, local production. We need to begin to refine our crude, and we need to, like I've said in several forums, we need to diversify our economy. We cannot run a mono economy and expect to be prosperous. The diversification will give us opportunity to invest. I mean, Saudi Arabia is doing that. They just declared $600 billion profit on the Saudi Aramco. Declared $600 billion on crude alone. And that money is injected into other alternative means of livelihood and other sector of the economy.
How can we improve the ease of doing business in Nigeria? Issues around power, issues around taxation, discourage the environments. Many have described it as harsh, hostile.
Very hostile.
How can we improve this?
I think we will improve it first on getting the leadership right first. Leadership is important. And wherever you see every country that is prosperous, check its leadership. And I think no young person need to be brought on board leadership. To give that energy, the Nigerian leadership structure for a while now has not had that energy, that drive, that aggressiveness to get what it matters.
And since you've mentioned leadership,
that
of course takes me to 2023. It's just around the corner, the general elections, the presidential elections. And let's speak about the candidate of the All Progressive Congress, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and let's speak about his economic blueprint as well. I wonder what kind of person, in your opinion or perspective, you think he is, and do you think with what he has done in Lagos, or what he did in Lagos as a two-term governor, he may be able to transform Nigeria's economy?
Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, extremely experienced, highly intelligent. But let me be a little bit selfish. I would say selfish. I got very appreciative of him when in his, it's not an inaugural speech. In the speech, as soon as he won the election, the primaries, he made one striking policy statement. And for us who are from Cross River, it should make us more excited in this fact that he said the economy of Nigeria will turn to Cross River. And that means the first thing he will do is the opening up of the Calabar Channel, the dredging of the Calabar River. And I think if he does that, that is going to be a boost for the economy of the country. And again, he's the man that has always matches his word with his actions. Mm-hmm. He's shown that in Lagos. He's shown that he's tenacious. He's shown that he's the man that you cannot push around. He's shown that he's a pragmatic leader. He's also shown that he can call your bluff. And he has the political will to implement his agendas.
And that exclusive conversation with engineer Ben Akak, chairman and CEO Bengi's Group of Companies, does it for us here on this edition of Business Week. Thanks for watching. I am Kelly Egiga. Bye now.